You've been standing at the crossroads too long. Every hard choice you've avoided has built a wall between you and the man you're supposed to become. This isn't another pep talk. It's not about finding your why. This is about 45 days that will tear down that wall, that separate the man who hesitates from the man who decides, the man who delays from the man who acts. Inside this life-changing audiobook, you'll discover how to face brutal decisions head-on, crush the paralysis of overthinking, and rebuild yourself into a man who moves when others freeze. Your fear of hard decisions ends here. Not tomorrow, not next week, here. Subscribe to Darkwood Audiobooks and start becoming the man who decides. Every choice you avoid is a choice you've already made. To stay weak, the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. You have 2 seconds. 2 seconds before your mind starts the negotiations. Before the committee in your head starts the meeting. Before the excuses begin their parade. Hit snooze or get up. This is not about the alarm. This is about the pattern. The pattern that has been running your life while you've been running from your life. You think the hard decision is choosing the job, the relationship, the city, the career change, the confrontation, the investment, the risk. But the hardest decision is simpler than that. The hardest decision is deciding to become the type of man who makes decisions instead of the type of man who makes excuses about why he can't make decisions. Every morning you delay getting out of bed. You're practicing being a man who delays. Every conversation you avoid having, you're practicing being a man who avoids. Every hard choice you postpone, you're practicing being a man who postpones. Practice makes permanent. You've been practicing being weak. Let that sink in. Not broken, not damaged, not traumatized into paralysis, just weak. Soft where you should be hard. Flexible where you should be rigid. Open where you should be closed. The weight you feel isn't the weight of the decisions themselves. It's the accumulated weight of all the decisions you didn't make, all the times you chose comfort over growth, safety over risk, the known hell over the unknown heaven. This weight compounds, like debt, like muscle atrophy, like rust on steel. You tell yourself you're being careful, thoughtful, prudent. You tell yourself you're gathering information, waiting for the right time, looking for the perfect opportunity. But perfection is just fear dressed in a business suit. The right time is a myth sold to men who are afraid of the wrong time. The perfect opportunity is a story told to men who are afraid of the imperfect opportunity that's sitting right in front of them. You know what you need to do. You've always known. The voice in your head that gets quiet when the crowd gets loud. That voice knows. It's been trying to tell you, but you've been listening to the committee instead of the commander. The committee wants consensus. The committee wants safety. The committee wants everyone to be comfortable with the decision before any decision gets made. The commander doesn't take votes. The commander takes ground. Which one are you listening to? Look at your life right now. Look at where you are. Look at what you've built. Look at what you haven't built. Look at the distance between where you are and where you know you should be. That distance is measured in delayed decisions. Every dream you put on hold while you figured out the perfect plan. Every goal you pushed to next year while you got ready to get ready. Every opportunity you let walk by while you studied it to death. The man you could have been is buried under the weight of all the decisions you were going to make tomorrow. Tomorrow is the graveyard of potential. Here's what they don't tell you about hard decisions. They don't get easier with time. They get heavier. The consequences of not choosing multiply. The options disappear. The window closes. The job you didn't apply for gets filled. The woman you didn't approach finds someone who did. The business you didn't start gets started by someone who would rather fail trying than succeed at nothing. The conversation you didn't have becomes the relationship you don't have. Time is not on your side. Time is indifferent to your side. Time moves whether you move or not. But when you move with time. When you don't move, time moves without you. And every day you stand still. You're not actually standing still. You're falling behind. Because everyone else is moving. The The world is moving. The opportunities are moving away from you. You think you're being conservative with your choices, but there's nothing conservative about wasting your life. There's nothing prudent about being prudent with time you can't get back. There's nothing safe about playing it safe with the only life you get. The safest thing you can do is become dangerous to your excuses. The most conservative thing you can do is radically commit to becoming who you're supposed to be. But that requires making decisions, hard decisions, decisions without all the information, decisions that might be wrong, decisions that definitely will be uncomfortable, decisions that separate you from the pack of men who are still waiting for permission to live their lives. You don't need permission. You need protocol, a system that makes the hard decisions easier by making them automatic, a framework that removes the negotiation between you and your potential, a process that kills your fear by starving it of the oxygen it needs to survive. Delay. Fear feeds on delay. Fear grows in the space between knowing what you need to do and doing what you know you need to do. Fear lives in that gap. It sets up camp there. It builds a house there. It raises a family there. Close the gap. Starve the fear. The protocol begins with understanding this. You are not afraid of making the wrong decision. You are afraid of being the type of man who makes decisions at all. Because once you become that man, there's no going back to being the man who hides behind analysis, who hides behind consensus, who hides behind the myth of perfect timing and perfect information. Once you become a man who decides, you become responsible for your life in a way that men who delay never have to be. And that's terrifying to the part of you that would rather fail by default than risk failing by design. But here's what that part of you doesn't understand. You're already failing. You're failing by not trying. You're failing by not choosing. You're failing by not becoming. The only question is whether you're going to fail while moving toward something or fail while moving toward nothing. The weight of delayed decisions isn't just the weight of opportunities missed. It's the weight of the man you never became. The weight of potential energy that never became kinetic energy. The weight of a life lived in preparation for a life that never got lived. This weight will break you. Not today, not tomorrow, but slowly, consistently, relentlessly, until you look up one day and realize you spent your life getting ready to live instead of living. Unless you decide to become the type of man who decides. Unless you develop the protocol that makes hard decisions automatic. Unless you kill your fear of choosing wrong by developing your capacity to choose quickly. The man who can make decisions quickly can course correct quickly. The man who delays making decisions perfectly delays everything perfectly. Speed beats perfection. Action beats analysis. Done beats perfect every single time. But you have to decide to become that man, and you have to decide today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you have more information, or better circumstances, or clearer signs from the universe. Today. Because today is the only day you actually have. Tomorrow is not a day. Tomorrow is an excuse. The weight of delayed decisions ends when you decide it ends. When you decide to become the type of man who carries the weight of his choices instead of the weight of his hesitation. When you decide to become dangerous to your own excuses. When you decide to begin. You cannot build new strength while carrying old weakness. The tree that grows the tallest is the tree that cuts away the branches that no longer serve it. The athlete who runs the fastest is the athlete who carries nothing he doesn't need. The man who builds the most meaningful life is the man who removes everything that makes his life meaningless. You are carrying dead weight, not just physical weight, though that might be true too. Mental weight, emotional weight, spiritual weight. The weight of relationships that drain you instead of fuel you. The weight of habits that diminish you instead of develop you. The weight of commitments that scatter your energy instead of focus it. The weight of the old version of yourself that you keep dragging around like a corpse chained to your ankle. This weight is invisible, but it's not imaginary. You feel it every morning when you wake up tired before the day begins. You feel it every evening when you collapse into bed having accomplished nothing that moves you closer to who you're supposed to become. You feel it in the gap between your potential and your reality. The gap that gets wider every day you choose to carry what you should choose to cut. Most men don't realize they have a choice. They think they have to keep everything, keep everyone, keep every commitment, every relationship, every habit, every belief, every story about who they are and what they're capable of. They think cutting is quitting. They think removing is failing. They think saying no is being negative. But cutting dead weight is not quitting, it's focusing. Removing what doesn't serve you is not failing. It's succeeding at identifying what does serve you. Saying no to the wrong things is how you say yes to the right things. You cannot do everything. You cannot be everything to everyone. You cannot maintain every relationship, pursue every opportunity, develop every skill, explore every interest. Trying to do everything is how you end up doing nothing well. Trying to be everything to everyone is how you end up being nothing to yourself. The strongest men are not the men who can carry the most weight. They are the men who have learned to carry only the weight that makes them stronger. But cutting dead weight requires brutally honest assessment. It requires looking at your life through the lens of results instead of intentions. Through the lens of what actually serves your growth instead of what you think should serve your growth. Through the lens of who you're becoming instead of who you've been. Start with your relationships. Not all relationships are created equal. Some relationships fuel you. They challenge you to grow, support your highest vision of yourself, call you out when you're being less than you're capable of being. These relationships are investments in your future self. Other relationships drain you. They pull you back into old patterns, old ways of thinking, old versions of yourself that you've outgrown. They feed on your energy without giving anything back. They need you to stay small so they can feel big. They need you to stay weak so they can feel strong. These relationships are debts to your past self. Cut the debts. Keep the investments. This is not about being cruel. This is about being honest. Honest about what serves your growth and what serves your stagnation. Honest about who supports your highest vision of yourself and who needs you to abandon that vision to make them comfortable. You cannot build new strength while maintaining old weakness. You cannot become a new man while staying loyal to everyone who needs you to remain the old man. Some people will not survive your growth. That's not your problem to solve. That's their problem to face. Your problem is becoming who you're supposed to become, and you cannot do that while carrying the weight of people who need you to stay who you used to be. Next, look at your habits. Every habit is either building the man you want to become or maintaining the man you want to leave behind. Every habit is either moving you closer to your potential or keeping you comfortable in your current limitations. There is no neutral. There are no habits that have no impact. Every single thing you do repeatedly is either strengthening you or weakening you, either focusing you or scattering you, either building discipline or building decay. The habits that feel comfortable are usually the habits that are keeping you weak. The habits that feel challenging are usually the habits that are making you strong. Comfort is not your friend when it comes to growth. Comfort is the enemy of change. Comfort is what keeps you exactly where you are when where you are is not where you belong. But comfort disguises itself as reward, as self-care, as balance, as treating yourself, as taking a break, as enjoying life. Comfort tells you that you deserve to relax, that you've earned the right to coast, that you should take it easy today and start being disciplined tomorrow. Tomorrow is where discipline goes to die. Today is the only day you can build the habits that build the man. Today is the only day you can cut the habits that cut you down. Today is the only day you have any power over. Look at your habits honestly. Not through the lens of what you intend to do, not through the lens of what you did once or twice, through the lens of what you actually do consistently when no one is watching. The habits you do when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're alone, when you don't feel like being disciplined. These are your real habits. These are the habits that are building your real character. Everything else is performance. Your real habits are either building real strength or maintaining real weakness, either moving you toward the man you want to become, or keeping you trapped as the man you want to leave behind. Cut the habits that keep you trapped. Keep only the habits that set you free. This will be uncomfortable. This will feel like losing parts of yourself. This will feel like sacrifice. Good. Discomfort is the price of growth. Losing parts of your old self is how you make room for your new self. Sacrifice is how you demonstrate to yourself and the world that you're serious about change. But the most important thing to cut is not your relationships or your habits. It's your stories. The stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. The stories about why you can't change, why you can't grow, why you can't become the man you know you should be. These stories feel true because you've been telling them for so long, but feeling true and being true are not the same thing. Being familiar with a story doesn't make it accurate. Believing a story doesn't make it helpful. Most of your stories about your limitations are not based on facts. They're based on fears, not on evidence. They're based on excuses, not on reality. They're based on the version of yourself that you've been carrying around like dead weight. The story that you're not disciplined enough. The story that you don't have enough time. The story that you're not smart enough, strong enough, worthy enough. The story that change is hard for you. The story that you're not the type of person who achieves big things. These stories are dead weight. They serve no purpose except to keep you exactly where you are. They provide no value except to make staying small feel reasonable and staying weak feel justified. Cut them, not gradually, not gently, not after you've tried everything else. Now, today, completely. Replace them with stories that serve your growth instead of your stagnation. Stories that challenge you instead of limit you. Stories that call you forward instead of hold you back. The story that you are the type of man who does what he says he's going to do. The story that you are capable of more than you've previously demonstrated. The story that your past does not determine your future unless you choose to let it. The story that you are not a victim of your circumstances, but the creator of your response to your circumstances. The story that you are strong enough to carry the weight that makes you stronger and wise enough to cut the weight that makes you weaker. But cutting dead weight is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice, a daily discipline, a weekly review, a monthly assessment. Because dead weight accumulates. Relationships that once served your growth stop serving your growth. Habits that once built strength start maintaining weakness. Stories that once inspired you start limiting you. What serves you today might not serve you tomorrow. What serves the man you are today might not serve the man you're becoming tomorrow. The protocol you're learning includes a system for regularly identifying and removing dead weight, for consistently choosing what serves your highest vision of yourself over what serves your comfort, your fear, or your past, for becoming dangerous to everything in your life that makes your life smaller instead of larger. This is not about becoming heartless. This is about becoming focused. This is not about caring less. This is about caring more about the right things and less about the wrong things. This is about understanding that you cannot build the life you want while maintaining the life that keeps you from the life you want. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot build in two directions. You cannot grow while simultaneously preventing your growth. Choose growth. Choose strength. Choose the man you're becoming over the man you've been. Choose to cut the dead weight that's been cutting you down. The tree that grows the tallest is the tree that has learned to prune itself. The man who builds the strongest life is the man who has learned to remove everything that makes his life weaker. Cut the branches that no longer bear fruit. Remove the relationships that no longer serve growth. Eliminate the habits that no longer build strength. Rewrite the stories that no longer inspire greatness. Become dangerous to your own dead weight. The new you is waiting on the other side of what you're willing to remove from the old you. Every decision has a price. Pay it up front, or pay it with interest later. Life is not fair, but it is mathematical. Every choice generates a consequence. Every action creates a reaction. Every decision sends a bill that will be paid either by the man who made the decision or by the man that decision created. The universe keeps perfect books. You think you can avoid consequences by avoiding decisions. You think you can escape the bill by not ordering from the menu. You think you can opt out of the economics of cause and effect by opting out of cause. But not choosing is choosing. Not deciding is deciding. Not acting is acting. And every choice, including the choice not to choose, has a price. The price of the hard decision you make today. The price of the hard decision you avoid today. The price of becoming the type of man who makes hard decisions. The price of remaining the type of man who avoids hard decisions. All prices, all due, all to be paid by someone. The question is not whether you'll pay. The question is when you'll pay and with what currency. The man who chooses discomfort today pays with temporary pain. The man who chooses comfort today pays with permanent regret. The man who chooses hard work now pays with sweat and effort. The man who chooses easy comfort now pays with mediocrity and disappointment. The man who chooses growth today pays with the death of his old self. The man who chooses stagnation today pays with the death of his potential. Both men pay, but they pay different prices, at different times, with different consequences. The man who understands the economics of consequences pays up front. He pays with intention, with awareness, with the knowledge that present pain prevents future suffering. The man who doesn't understand the economics of consequences pays later. He pays with interest, with compounding, with the null. DG that avoided pain becomes unavoidable suffering, present pain or future suffering, temporary discomfort or permanent disappointment, the price of growth or the price of stagnation. Choose your payment plan, but understand this: the price of making hard decisions goes down over time. The price of avoiding hard decisions goes up over time. Every hard decision you make builds the muscle of decision-making, makes the next hard decision easier, strengthens your capacity to choose growth over comfort, truth over convenience, long-term benefit over short-term pleasure. Every hard decision you avoid weakens that muscle, makes the next hard decision harder, increases your dependence on comfort, convenience, and short-term pleasure at the expense of long-term strength. The rich get richer, the strong get stronger, the decisive get more decisive, not because they're lucky, because they understand compound interest works in both directions. Compound growth and compound decay, compound strength and compound weakness, compound courage and compound fear. Every decision you make is an investment in the type of man you're becoming. Every decision you avoid is a withdrawal from that account. You think you're preserving your resources by not spending them, but you're not preserving anything. You're wasting everything. Resources that aren't invested don't maintain their value. They depreciate, they decay, they disappear. Your courage, your strength, your decision-making ability, your capacity for growth. These are not savings accounts. These are use-it-or-lose-it assets. They get stronger with exercise and weaker with neglect. The man who doesn't use his courage loses his courage. The man who doesn't exercise his strength loses his strength. The man who doesn't practice making decisions loses his ability to make decisions. Not all at once, not obviously, not dramatically, slowly, subtly, consistently, until one day he wakes up and realizes he's become a man who can't choose anything important because he spent so many years not choosing anything at all. But the economics of consequences is not just about you. It's about the people in your life who depend on you to become the strongest version of yourself. The people who need you to make hard decisions so They don't have to live with the consequences of your easy choices. Your children, who will inherit either your strength or your weakness. Your partner, who will either be inspired by your growth or limited by your stagnation. Your friends, who will either be challenged by your courage or enabled by your fear. The people in your life are not neutral observers of your choices. They are affected parties. They benefit from your strength and suffer from your weakness. They grow when you grow and shrink when you shrink. When you avoid the hard decision to have a difficult conversation, they live with the tension of the unspoken truth. When you avoid the hard decision to change careers, they live with the energy of your unfulfilled potential. When you avoid the hard decision to set boundaries, they live with the chaos of your lack of leadership. Your avoided decisions become their inherited problems. Your delayed growth becomes their delayed progress. Your unpaid bills become their unexpected debt. This is not to guilt you into action. This is to help you understand the full cost accounting of your choices, to help you see that the consequences of your decisions extend beyond your individual experience to the collective experience of everyone who is connected to your life. You are not making decisions in a vacuum. You are making decisions in a system where your choices create ripple effects that touch every person you care about and many people you don't even know you're affecting. The man who understands this doesn't make decisions based only on what's comfortable for him. He makes decisions based on what's best for the version of himself that serves the highest good of everyone in his system. He pays the price of hard decisions up front because he knows the alternative is making everyone else pay the price of his avoided decisions later. But there's something else about the economics of consequences that most men never understand. The price of the hard decision is usually much lower than you think it will be, and the payoff is usually much higher than you imagine it could be. Your mind, remember, is designed to keep you safe, not to make you strong. It overestimates the cost of risk and underestimates the cost of safety. It inflates the price of change and deflates the price of staying the same. But staying the same is not free. Staying the same is expensive. Staying the same costs you everything you could have become. The price of the hard decision, the conversation, the career change, the relationship choice, the business risk, is usually temporary discomfort followed by permanent growth. The price of avoiding the hard decision is usually temporary comfort followed by permanent regret. Temporary discomfort or permanent regret. Temporary pain or permanent suffering. Temporary fear or permanent disappointment. Run the numbers. Do the math. Calculate the real cost of both choices. Not just the immediate cost, the total cost, the compound cost. The cost to you, the cost to your future, the cost to everyone who depends on you becoming the strongest version of yourself. When you run the numbers honestly, the economics are clear. Hard decisions are cheap. Easy decisions are expensive. Hard decisions pay dividends. Easy decisions charge interest. Hard decisions are investments in your future strength. Easy decisions are loans against your future potential. But you have to learn to think like an investor instead of a consumer. You have to learn to prioritize long-term return over short-term comfort. You have to learn to pay upfront prices for compound benefits instead of avoiding upfront costs and accepting compound consequences. You have to learn to see decision-making as a skill that gets better with practice instead of a burden that gets heavier with experience. The protocol you're learning is designed to help you master the economics of consequences, to help you see the true cost of your choices before you make them. Help you choose the prices you pay instead of having prices chosen for you. To help you become the type of man who pays up front for everything he wants instead of the type of man who finances everything he fears. The universe keeps perfect books, but you get to choose how you pay. Pay now with intention and awareness, or pay later with interest and regret. The choice is yours. The consequences are inevitable. Choose wisely. The man you're becoming is depending on it. Your best work happens when no one is watching. Your worst excuses happen when everyone is. The crowd will not be there when you do the work that changes your life. The audience will not be present when you make the decisions that make the man. The witnesses will not witness the moments when you choose strength over comfort, growth over stagnation, truth over convenience. The most important work happens in private, in darkness, in the space between who you were when you went to sleep and who you choose to be when you wake up. This is where real men are built, not on stages, not in front of cameras, not with validation and applause and recognition. In the dark, alone, with nothing but the choice between the easy path and the right path. Most men are addicted to external validation. They need someone to see them working to feel like the work matters. They need someone to acknowledge their effort to feel like the effort is worthwhile. They need someone to recognize their progress to feel like the progress is real. But dependence on external validation is dependence on external permission. If you need someone else to see your work for your work to matter, then your work doesn't belong to you, it belongs to them. If you need someone else to validate your progress for your progress to be real, then your progress is not based on your development. It's based on their approval, and approval can be withdrawn, recognition can be removed, validation can be revoked. What happens to your work when the audience leaves? What happens to your progress when the recognition stops? What happens to your motivation when the validation disappears? If your strength depends on external support, then your strength is not actually strength. It's performance, and performance requires an audience, and audiences are not guaranteed, and audiences are not permanent. Real strength is built in solitude. Real progress is made in private. Real growth happens in the gap between public expectation and private execution. The man who can work without an audience is the man who can work consistently. The man who can grow without recognition is the man who can grow continuously. The man who can build without validation is the man who can build permanently. Because audiences come and go, recognition comes and goes, validation comes and goes. But the work remains, the progress remains, the growth remains, if it was built on internal foundation instead of external approval. Building in darkness is not just about working without recognition, it's about working without the distraction of recognition. It's about focusing on the process instead of the performance. It's about measuring success by internal metrics instead of external metrics. It's about becoming the type of man who does the right thing because it's the right thing, not because doing the right thing makes him look good. The type of man who tells the truth because truth matters, not because telling the truth earns him respect. The type of man who keeps his commitments because keeping commitments builds character, not because keeping commitments builds reputation. This is integrity, not the performance of integrity for public consumption, the practice of integrity for private development. And integrity, real integrity, is built in moments when no one is watching, when no one would know if you cut corners, when no one would judge you for taking the easy path, when no one would blame you for choosing comfort over character. These are the moments when real men are forged, when real strength is built, when real character is developed. In the darkness, in private, in the space between what you could get away with and what you choose to do anyway. The man who exercises when he doesn't feel like exercising builds discipline that transcends exercise. The man who keeps his word when breaking his word would be convenient builds trustworthiness that transcends any single commitment. The man who chooses growth when growth is uncomfortable builds strength that transcends any single choice. But the man who only exercises when he feels like it builds dependence on feeling like it. The man who only keeps his word when keeping his word is convenient builds a reputation for convenience, not commitment. The man who only chooses growth when growth is comfortable builds comfort, not character. The difference is what you do when no one is watching, what you choose when no one would know, what you build when no one would see. This is where the protocol becomes most powerful. This is where the 45-day transformation happens. Not in the moments of public declaration and visible commitment, in the moments of private choice and invisible discipline, in the darkness of early morning when the alarm goes off and you have to choose between the bed and the plan, in the darkness of late evening when you have to choose between the easy entertainment and the hard work, in the darkness of internal dialogue when you have to choose between the excuse and the execution. These dark moments are not obstacles to overcome. They are opportunities to build. They are not problems to solve. They are muscles to strengthen. They are not inconveniences to avoid. They are investments to make in the man you're becoming. Every time you choose discipline in darkness, you make the next choice easier. Every time you choose growth in private, you make public growth more natural. Every time you build without an audience, you build the capacity to perform with any audience, because the man who can work alone can work anywhere. The man who can motivate himself can be motivated by anything. The man who can build in darkness can build in any light, but the man who can only work with support can only work when support is available. The man who can only motivate himself with external validation can only be motivated when validation is present. The man who can only build with an audience can only build when the audience is watching. And support is not always available. Validation is not always present. Audiences are not always watching, but the work still needs to be done. The growth still needs to happen. The man still needs to be built. It teaches you the difference between solitude and isolation, between privacy and secrecy, between internal motivation and internal limitation. Solitude is chosen, isolation is imposed, privacy is protective, secrecy is defensive, internal motivation is powerful, internal limitation is paralyzing. The man who builds in darkness chooses solitude to protect his growth. He maintains privacy to focus his energy. He develops internal motivation to fuel his progress. The man who hides in darkness accepts isolation to avoid growth. He uses secrecy to protect his excuses. He maintains internal limitation to justify his stagnation. Same darkness, different building. One man uses darkness to build strength. The other man uses darkness to hide weakness. One man builds in darkness so he can shine in light. The other man hides in darkness so he doesn't have to face the light. Which man are you building? The protocol will teach you to use darkness as a construction zone, not a hiding place. To use solitude as a workshop, not an escape. To use privacy as protection for your growth, not protection from your growth. To use the darkness to build the light that will guide everyone who comes after you. But first, you have to stop being afraid of the dark. You have to stop needing external light to see internal truth. You have to stop requiring external validation to feel internal worth. You have to learn to build by the light of your own commitment instead of the light of other people's approval. The light that comes from knowing you're doing the right thing because it's the right thing. The light that comes from keeping your word to yourself even when no one else would know if you broke it. The light that comes from choosing growth over comfort even when comfort is easier and growth is harder. This light is not as bright as external validation. It's not as warm as external approval. It's not as dramatic as external recognition, but it's reliable. It's consistent. It's yours. And it's strong enough to light the path from who you are to who you're becoming. Strong enough to illuminate the work that needs to be done when no one is watching. Strong enough to guide the choices that need to be made when no one is judging. Strong enough to fuel the growth that needs to happen when no one is validating. The man who learns to build in darkness learns to build permanently, because the foundation he builds is not dependent on external conditions. It's based on internal commitment. It's based on the promise he makes to himself in the darkness and keeps to himself in the darkness. The promise to become the man he's supposed to become, regardless of who's watching, who's supporting, who's validating. The promise to do the work that builds the life he wants, regardless of who sees the work, who appreciates the work, who recognizes the work. The promise to grow into his potential regardless of who believes in that potential, who supports that growth, who celebrates that transformation. This is the promise that transforms boys into men, weakness into strength, potential into reality. The promise made in darkness and kept in darkness until the light it creates becomes too bright to hide. But that light is not for the audience. That light is not for validation. That light is not for recognition. That light is for service, for leadership, for showing other men that it's possible to build strength in darkness and shine light in darkness and become dangerous to your own limitations in the darkness. For showing them that the most important work happens when no one is watching, and the most important man is built when no one is building him, except himself. Discipline is not punishment. It is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. For 45 days, you will not think your way to a decision. You will not feel your way to a decision. You will not wait for perfect information, or perfect timing, or perfect circumstances. You will follow the protocol. The protocol is not complicated. Complex problems do not require complex solutions. They require consistent solutions. They require simple systems executed daily until simple becomes automatic and automatic becomes identity. The protocol has 3 phases. Each phase builds on the previous phase. Each phase strengthens the muscles needed for the next phase. Each phase transforms not just what you do, but who you are. Phase 1. Recognition, days 1 to 15. Phase 2. Repetition, days 16 to 30. Phase 3. Revolution, days 31 to 45. 45 days from now, you will not be the same man who started reading this. You will not think the same thoughts, feel the same fears, or make the same excuses. You will not hesitate where you used to, hesitate or delay where you used to delay. You will decide, quickly, consistently, automatically, not because you've become fearless, because you've become dangerous to your fear, not because you've eliminated uncertainty, because you've eliminated your need for certainty, not because you've mastered all the information, because you've mastered your ability to act without all the information. But the protocol only works if you work the protocol. It only transforms you if you allow yourself to be transformed. It only makes you dangerous to your limitations if you're willing to be dangerous to your comfort. Are you willing, not ready? Willing. Ready implies preparation. Willing implies decision. You don't get ready for the protocol. You decide to begin the protocol. You don't prepare for transformation. You choose transformation today, now. With whatever readiness you have and whatever preparation you don't have. Because the protocol begins with the decision to begin the protocol. And that decision, like every decision that matters, happens in the gap between thinking about it and doing it. Close the gap. Begin. Phase 1. Recognition. Days 1 to 15. The first 15 days are about seeing clearly. About recognizing the patterns that have kept you trapped in the space between knowing and doing. About identifying the specific ways you avoid making decisions and the specific costs of that avoidance. You cannot change what you cannot see. You cannot overcome what you will not acknowledge. You cannot transform what you continue to deny. Recognition is not judgment. It's assessment. It's data collection. It's honest accounting of where you are, so you can navigate to where you want to be. For the next 15 days, you will carry a small notebook, physical, not digital, something you can write in, quickly without screens or apps or distractions. Every time you face a decision, any decision, you will write it down. The decision, the delay, the excuse, the outcome, not just big decisions, every decision, what to eat, what to wear, what to watch, what to buy, what to say, what to avoid saying. Every decision you make quickly, every decision you delay, every decision you avoid, every decision you delegate to someone else or to future you or to circumstances. You will write down the decision and the delay and the reason for the delay. You will write down what you told yourself about why you couldn't decide right now, what information you needed, what circumstances you were waiting for, what permission you required. You will write down the real cost of the delay. Not the imagined cost, the real cost. The energy spent thinking about the decision instead of making the decision. The time lost in analysis instead of action. The opportunities missed while waiting for better opportunities. You will write down what you discovered about yourself in the delay. What fears came up. What stories you told yourself. What patterns emerged. This is not journaling. This is reconnaissance. You are gathering intelligence on the enemy of your progress. You are studying the terrain of your own resistance. You are mapping the geography of your own hesitation. Most men are unconscious of their decision-making patterns. They think they don't make decisions, but they make dozens of decisions every day. They just make them unconsciously, automatically, reactively. Or they avoid making them unconsciously, automatically, reactively. The protocol makes the unconscious conscious, the automatic intentional, the reactive proactive. By day 15, you will see the patterns. You will recognize the specific triggers that activate your hesitation. You will identify the specific fears that fuel your delay. You will understand the specific costs of your avoidance. You will see yourself clearly. Not all of yourself. Just the parts of yourself that have been making decisions for you without your awareness. The parts that choose comfort over growth, safety over strength, certainty over courage. The parts that need to die so the man you're becoming can live. Phase 2. Repetition. Days 16 to 30. The second 15 days are about building the muscle, about developing the capacity to choose quickly and consistently. About strengthening your decision-making ability through deliberate practice. Recognition without action is just sophisticated procrastination. Awareness without application is just intellects. Tool entertainment. Understanding without implementation is just another form of delay. Phase 2 is where understanding becomes ability, where awareness becomes action, where recognition becomes repetition. For the next 15 days, you will make every decision within 60 seconds of recognizing the need to make a decision. Every decision. Small decisions in 10 seconds. Medium decisions in 30 seconds. Large decisions in 60 seconds. Not perfect decisions. Quick decisions. Not complete decisions. Committed decisions. Not risk-free decisions. Forward-moving decisions. You will not gather more information. You will not seek more opinions. You will not wait for better timing or clearer signs or more comfortable circumstances. You will decide with the information you have, the circumstances you're in, the readiness you possess. This will feel reckless. This will feel dangerous. This will feel like you're making decisions too quickly. Good. Feeling reckless means you're taking risks. Feeling dangerous means you're becoming dangerous to your limitations. Feeling like you're moving too quickly means you're moving faster than your fear can keep up. But quick decisions are not careless decisions. They are clear decisions. They are committed decisions. They are decisions based on clarity about your values, your direction, your non-negotiables. Before you begin phase 2, you will define these clearly. Your non-negotiables. The 5 things that you will not compromise on, no matter what. The 5 principles that guide every decision. The 5 values that filter every option. Your direction, where you're going in the next year. Not your goals, your direction. The trajectory of your growth. The path of your development. Your identity. Who you're becoming. Not who you are, who you're becoming. The man you're transforming into through the decisions you make. Phase 3. Revolution. Days 31 to 45. The final 15 days are about integration, about becoming the type of man who makes hard decisions automatically, about revolutionizing not just how you decide, but who you are as a decider. Revolution means complete transformation, total change, the death of the old operating system and the birth of the new one. For the final 15 days, you will not just make decisions quickly. You will make the hardest decisions in your life. The decisions you've been avoiding. The decisions you've been delaying. The decisions you've been hoping would resolve themselves or go away or become someone else's responsibility. You will write down the 5 hardest decisions you've been avoiding, the 5 most important choices you've been delaying, the 5 most significant changes you've been postponing, the conversation you need to have, the relationship you need to end or commit to, the career you need to change, the habit you need to break, the risk you need to take, the commitment you need to make, the boundary you need to set, the truth you need to speak. You will make these decisions, all 5, in 15 days. Not think about making them, make them. Not plan to make them eventually, make them immediately. Not prepare to make them when conditions are better. Make them with conditions as they are. 1 decision every 3 days. 72 hours from identifying the decision to implementing the decision. No exceptions, no delays, no negotiations with yourself. This will be the most difficult 15 days of your life. This will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. This will force you to confront every fear, every excuse, every story that has kept you small. For these 15 days, you will check in with the protocol every morning and every evening. Every morning, you will review your commitment to the decision you're making that day. Every evening, you will assess your progress and prepare for the next day. You will not negotiate with yourself. You will not make excuses. You will not delay because conditions aren't perfect or timing isn't ideal or circumstances aren't comfortable. You will make the decision and take the first action to implement the decision within 72 hours of identifying it. By day 45, you will not be the same man who started this protocol. You will think differently, feel differently, act differently, decide differently. You will have killed your fear of hard decisions, not by eliminating fear, but by proving to yourself that you can make hard decisions despite fear. You will have developed a new identity, the identity of a man who decides, who chooses, who acts, who moves, who builds, who becomes, who is dangerous to his own limitations and committed to his own growth. The protocol ends on day 45, but the transformation is permanent. The muscle you've built doesn't atrophy. The capacity you've developed doesn't disappear. The identity you've created doesn't revert. You become the type of man who makes decisions quickly, consistently, automatically. Not because you have to follow a protocol. Because decision-making has become who you are. The bridge between thought and accomplishment is no longer under construction. It's built. It's strong. It's permanent. You can cross it any time you need to get from knowing to doing, from thinking to building, from potential to reality. The protocol begins today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are better. Today, with the decision to begin. Make it now. What breaks weak men forges strong ones. The pressure will come, not if, when, not maybe, definitely, not in some distant future when you're more prepared for it. Soon, often, relentlessly. Pressure is not the enemy of your growth. Pressure is the mechanism of your growth. Pressure is not what breaks you. Pressure is what makes you. Pressure is not the problem you need to solve. Pressure is the tool you need to master. But most men are afraid of pressure. They spend their lives trying to avoid it, minimize it, escape from it. They think pressure is punishment for poor choices, or bad luck, or insufficient preparation. They think pressure means they're doing something wrong. But pressure means you're doing something. Pressure means you're moving. Pressure means you're attempting something significant enough to generate resistance. No pressure, no diamonds, no resistance, no strength. No challenge, no change. The man who avoids pressure avoids transformation. The man who minimizes pressure minimizes his potential. The man who escapes from pressure escapes from his own evolution. But the man who masters pressure masters his own development. The man who uses pressure as a tool becomes dangerous to his own limitations. The man who transforms pressure into power becomes unstoppable. The protocol you've been learning creates pressure. Deliberately, systematically, progressively. The pressure of making decisions quickly when you're used to making decisions slowly. The pressure of acting without perfect information when you're used to analyzing until analysis becomes paralysis. The pressure of becoming someone new when you're comfortable being someone familiar. This pressure is not accidental. This pressure is essential. Because transformation requires pressure. Change demands resistance. Growth needs challenge. Without pressure, you remain the same. Without resistance, you stay weak. Without challenge, you stay comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort is where potential goes to die. Comfort is where men who could have been extraordinary choose to remain ordinary. The pressure of the protocol will reveal things about yourself that you didn't know were there. It will expose strengths you didn't know you had and weaknesses you didn't know were controlling you. It will bring to the surface everything that needs to be faced for you to become who you're supposed to become. Some of what surfaces will surprise you. Some of it will disappoint you. Some of it will shock you. All of it will serve you. Because you cannot transform what you will not face. You cannot overcome what you will not acknowledge. You cannot master what you will not encounter. The pressure brings it all to the surface where you can see it, face it, deal with it, transform it, or eliminate it. But only if you don't run from the pressure. Only if you don't collapse under the pressure. Only if you learn to use the pressure instead of being used by the pressure. Here's how pressure works. Pressure reveals your breaking points so you can strengthen them. It exposes your weak links so you can reinforce them. It identifies your limits so you can expand them. Pressure shows you where you give up so you can choose to continue. It shows you where you make excuses so you can choose accountability. It shows you where you blame circumstances so you can choose responsibility. Pressure is diagnostic. It shows you exactly what needs to be developed, strengthened, transformed, or eliminated for you to become the man you're capable of becoming. But pressure is also therapeutic. It develops what needs to be developed. It strengthens what needs to be strengthened. It transforms what needs to be transformed. It eliminates what needs to be eliminated. Pressure is both the diagnosis and the cure. Both the question and the answer, both the problem and the solution. But only for the man who learns to work with pressure instead of against it, who learns to use pressure as fuel instead of fighting pressure as an enemy. The weak man sees pressure and asks, "How do I escape this?" The strong man sees pressure and asks, "How do I use this?" The weak man experiences pressure and looks for someone to blame. The strong man experiences pressure and looks for ways to grow. The weak man feels pressure and seeks comfort. The strong man feels pressure and seeks strength. Different responses, different results, different men. Pressure doesn't create these differences. Pressure reveals these differences. Pressure doesn't make men weak or strong. Pressure exposes the weakness or strength that was already there. But here's what most men don't understand. You can choose your response to pressure. You can decide whether pressure breaks you or makes you. You can determine whether pressure reveals weakness or builds strength. You can learn to love pressure instead of fear it, to welcome it instead of avoid it, to use it instead of be used by it. This is not about becoming numb to pressure or pretending pressure doesn't affect you. This is about developing the capacity to transform pressure into power, to convert resistance into strength, to change challenge into opportunity. The man who learns to do this becomes anti-fragile. He doesn't just survive pressure, he thrives under pressure. He doesn't just withstand stress, he grows stronger from stress. He doesn't just endure challenges, he becomes better because of challenges. But becoming anti-fragile requires practice. It requires exposure to pressure in controlled amounts, for specific purposes, with clear intentions. It requires deliberately seeking pressure instead of accidentally encountering it. Proactively engaging challenge instead of reactively responding to crisis. Sing your hard instead of having hard chosen for you. The protocol does this. It creates measured pressure for specific growth. It exposes you to controlled challenge for deliberate development. It generates intentional resistance for purposeful strengthening. 45 days of increasing pressure, 45 days of progressive challenge, 45 days of systematic exposure to the kind of stress that builds the kind of man you're becoming. Day by day, decision by decision, choice by choice, you build the capacity to handle more pressure, use more challenge, transform more resistance into strength. But the pressure of the protocol is not the only pressure you'll face. Life will provide additional pressure. Circumstances will generate unexpected challenge. Other people will create unwanted stress. The protocol prepares you for this pressure by teaching you to work with pressure instead of against it, by developing your capacity to see pressure as information instead of intimidation, by strengthening your ability to use pressure as a tool instead of experience it as torture. When the pressure comes, and it will come, you will not ask how to escape it, you will ask how to use it. When the challenge arrives, and it will arrive, you will not look for someone to blame, you will look for ways to grow. When the stress increases, and it will increase, you will not seek comfort, you will seek strength. Because you will have learned that pressure is not punishment. Pressure is privilege. The privilege of being challenged to become more than you currently are. The privilege of being invited to develop strength you don't currently have. The privilege of being offered transformation you can't currently imagine. Not everyone gets this privilege. Not everyone faces pressure significant enough to forge them into something stronger. Not everyone encounters challenge meaningful enough to transform them into someone better. Most people live lives of such comfort that they never discover what they're capable of becoming under pressure. They never find out how strong they could be, how resilient they could become, how much they could grow. They never get pressed hard enough to become diamonds. But you will, if you choose to, if you commit to the protocol. If you learn to see pressure as your partner instead of your enemy, if you learn to work with pressure to forge yourself into the man you're supposed to become, the man who doesn't break under pressure but breaks through because of pressure, the man who doesn't avoid challenge but seeks challenge that serves his growth, the man who doesn't fear stress but uses stress to build strength, the man who understands that what breaks weak men forges strong ones, and chooses to be forged. The man you become is built from the decisions the old you was afraid to make. 45 days from now, you will look in the mirror and see a stranger. Not because your appearance will have changed dramatically, because your identity will have changed completely. You will see a man who makes decisions quickly instead of slowly. A man who acts despite uncertainty instead of waiting for certainty. A man who moves toward challenge instead of away from it. A man who uses pressure to build strength instead of using comfort to maintain weakness. You will see a man who is dangerous to his own limitations and committed to his own growth. But this transformation will not happen to you. It will happen through you. It will not be done for you. It will be done by you. You will not be changed by the protocol. You will change yourself with the protocol. Every decision you make will be a choice between the man you've been and the man you're becoming. Every action you take will be a step away from your old identity and toward your new identity. Every moment of pressure you embrace will be a moment of forging the stronger version of yourself. The man on the other side of this transformation is not a different person. He is the same person with different capabilities, the same person with different habits, the same person with different patterns, the same person with different identity. He is you, but you unleashed, you unafraid, you unrestricted by the fears and limitations and excuses that have kept the current you small. But becoming this man requires killing the old man, not literally, symbolically, the death of the old identity so the new identity can be born, the death of the old patterns so new patterns can be established. The death of the old way of being so a new way of being can emerge. Death and birth, ending and beginning, destruction and creation. This time, C is the process of transformation. This is the price of evolution. This is the cost of becoming who you're supposed to become. Most men are not willing to pay this price. They want to grow without changing. They want to become stronger without killing their weakness. They want to develop new capabilities without abandoning old limitations. They want transformation without death, change without loss, growth without sacrifice. But transformation requires death. Change demands loss. Growth necessitates sacrifice. The sacrifice of comfort for strength. The sacrifice of certainty for growth. The sacrifice of the familiar for the powerful. The sacrifice of who you've been for who you're becoming. Are you willing to make this sacrifice? Are you willing to let the old you die so the new you can live? Are you willing to abandon the identity that has kept you safe so you can develop the identity that will make you strong? This is not a one-time decision. This is a daily choice. This is a moment-by-moment commitment to choosing growth over comfort, strength over safety, the unknown powerful over the known weak. For 45 days, you will make this choice repeatedly. Sometimes it will be easy. Sometimes it will be brutal. Sometimes you will make it gladly. Sometimes you will make it reluctantly. But you will make it, because the man on the other side is depending on you to make it. The man who can make any decision quickly. The man who can face any challenge confidently. The man who can handle any pressure skillfully. The man who can build any life intentionally. This man exists, not in theory, in potential, not in imagination, in possibility. He exists in the decisions you haven't made yet, the actions you haven't taken yet, the identity you haven't developed yet. He exists in the gap between who you are and who you could become, in the space between your current reality and your ultimate potential, in the distance between your present limitations and your future capabilities. But he will only become real if you make him real. He will only become actual if you make him actual. He will only become you if you become him. Through 45 days of choosing him over the current you. Through 45 days of decisions that serve his development instead of your comfort. Through 45 days of actions that build his strength instead of maintain your weakness. Through 45 days of becoming him instead of remaining you. This will be the most challenging thing you've ever done, not because the protocol is complicated, because transformation is costly.